Welcome back to another Professional Picks college basketball video. We've finally made it to the postseason. Today, previewing the Big Ten tournament. No lines I really love for tomorrow, but meant to get this video out sooner, so definitely want to get out before the tournament starts regardless. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Let me know who you're taking in the tournament. Got any sleepers? Think you're going chalk, fading me? Just love to know what you guys are thinking in the comments. But let's get right into the bracket. We're going to start off for Wednesday's games tomorrow, March 8th. Got number 13, Ohio State against Wisconsin. Honestly, two teams who definitely underperformed this year. They both could have finished in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten. Ohio State, a lot of good freshmen, a couple transfers. The team just never really made too much sense as a whole. You just don't have enough posts, especially in the Big Ten, a conference that likes to play slow and really get paint touches and just has a lot of dominant bigs, honestly, between Purdue, got Indiana, Michigan, Rutgers, Iowa. So just not a good team balance for Ohio State. Ended up at 13, but I do think Bryce Sensabaugh has the most to play for in this game. He's still going to go probably in the first round of the NBA draft. So he's even if the season's pretty much over, he's got a lot to play for. Obviously, both these teams still think they could win the tournament. And then Wisconsin, on the other hand, um, definitely on paper looked like it was going to be a down year, and it was. But there's been a lot of seasons where Wisconsin, on paper, looks like it's going to be a down year, and they just find ways to figure it out. Started off pretty good in the Big Ten play and just really fell apart in the second half of the season. But the pick here is still going to be Wisconsin. I think between the points we just mentioned, you got Zed Key out for the season for Ohio State. They have no true posts. I don't know how they're going to match up with Stephen Crowell. And you got Tyler Wall. You do have a decent paint presence for Wisconsin. And just overall, I think they play better defense. So going with Wisconsin against Ohio State just plays more sound basketball. But Ohio State has been so inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get with them. Regardless, going with Wisconsin, I would have taken both of these teams over Minnesota and Nebraska, but that is our next matchup here on the bottom. Not going to be watching this one. And I don't mean to disrespect Nebraska, but I just don't see a true identity when I watch that team. Got a couple scorers. They have shown the ability to win bigger games. Just upset a couple Big Ten teams, but regardless, I don't think either of these teams have too much talent. Got to go with Nebraska though, because Minnesota's just been by far and away the worst team in the Big Ten. Moving on to our Thursday games, Rutgers against Michigan. This is easy pick for me. I think Michigan, although they've been up and down all season, they're starting to trend in the right direction. Blew a game. I'm pretty sure, yeah, blew a game in Indiana recently, but still got to cover on that one regardless. But looking at Rutgers, Mawot Mag, the small forward, when he got injured, forget it was some sort of leg injury, but he's out for the season. Ever since his injury, they've fallen off, and it's just because they don't have enough depth there. They're really just a strong starting five. You lose one of the guys, they've just not been the same basketball team since they were at the top of the Big Ten prior to it, ranked basketball team. I like Michigan a lot here, although I think Clifford Amarui matches up decently well with Hunter Dickinson. Definitely going to need to see a good game from Jet Howard, Kobe Buffkin, but I think they're just going to be able to score the ball a little bit better than Rutgers will be able to defend, that being their team strength. So Michigan's the pick there. Moving down to Iowa versus Wisconsin. It's tough for me to go with Wisconsin, with just how bad they've been on the season, just really inefficient on the offensive end. Iowa has an NBA player in Chris Murray. That's just got to be a pick. Don't go dig into it any more than that. I really could see Iowa getting upset by either Ohio State or Wisconsin, just because Iowa doesn't play super sound basketball, but they're great on the offensive end. Should be able to put up points and probably run away with this one. Iowa's the pick there. And then the toughest game for me as an Illinois fan going to this game on Thursday. Penn State's beaten us twice on the year already, once by 12, once by 15. So they've definitely had our number. I don't think they are the better team, but just something about those Penn State Illinois matchups have not been going our way. Obviously, Jalen Pickett is an X factor, putting up over 40 in the last one, and then like 27 and 7 in the first one. So I think he's the best player in the matchup. I what I do like about Illinois is Terrence Shannon Jr. and Matthew Meyer. They're both more on the inconsistent end, but when they're playing great, Illinois is almost impossible to beat. You don't get it every game, and you usually only get one of them to play really well. But Illinois is a team with a very high ceiling, but also can just lay an egg at any time. It's tough because I know Illinois is going to have the semi-home court advantage being in Chicago, but with the way just what I've seen in the first two games, I gotta go with Penn State here. This one hurts, but I just see history repeating itself. Jalen Pickett has had his way every time we played so far. And then lastly, wrapping up down on the bottom here, Nebraska can't beat anyone. Maryland is a really good team at home. Hasn't played as great on the road this year, but just 1 through 5. Maryland has more talent. They might not be the toughest team in the league, but just hard to go against Maryland, especially when I view Nebraska as one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. I know they got the 11th seed, but we're still in the playing game. Gotta go with Maryland in that one. So now moving on to Friday, Michigan versus Purdue. Purdue's first game of the tournament, and then I do have Michigan coming off of this win against Rutgers, and Purdue's playing not as great as of late, but regardless, still a top 10 team in the country. Pretty much have been all year. The one issue with Purdue is I think teams are starting to figure out Zach Edey. They're almost unstoppable for the whole first half of the season. Looked like the favorite for the tournament champion, but in the last month or so, or a couple weeks, they're about 500. Even in the last game, they almost blew their 20-point lead to Illinois, who shouldn't even have been in the game. The reason I really like Michigan in this one is because you got Hunter Dickinson, who can match up at least somewhat with Edey, slow him down much better than most of the rest of the Big Ten can do. And I just think between Jet Howard, who's pretty good, a little bit streaky, I think Kobe Buffkin has really played great here down the stretch. I think he's going to carry Michigan. He has as of late. They just got to get a few stops, but I like Purdue to be a little cold after the long stretch. I know they're well rested, but I think Michigan coming off big confident win against Rutgers. They needed a little bit more to help with seeding in March Madness if they're even make it. I think this is a bigger game for Michigan, and they're trending in the right direction. Moving on to Iowa, Michigan State. Michigan State's first game of the tournament, and then Iowa coming off the win against Wisconsin. These two teams are fairly different just in the sense of Iowa really wants to shoot a ton of threes and doesn't play as great on the defensive end. Michigan State still shoots a good amount of threes, but definitely hangs their hat a little bit more on the defensive end. And then it's just Izzo in March. He's been crazy successful in March throughout his whole career, and even in Michigan State's down years, but they're a 4 seed. This is when they play their best basketball. I like Michigan State's 1 through 5 a lot. Tyson Walker is a very clutch player. AJ Hoggard, very clutch player. When I look at Iowa, I think too much falls on Chris Murray. He does kind of have a good matchup here, though. Joey Hauser doesn't really look like he could guard him. You got Malik Hall And I'm pretty sure they went with the guards last time, but I don't think Iowa has enough on the rest of the roster. I know you got Patrick McCaffrey coming back after missing some games midseason, but Peyton Sandford, Tony Perkins, good role players, but I just prefer Michigan State here. I think they play better defense, and that's what gets them the win. Moving on, I think Northwestern is the biggest fraud in the Big Ten. Obviously, they're playing much better basketball. Uh, they're second in the Big Ten this year, but this is a team who brought back everyone from the worst team in the Big Ten the season before. They lost Pete Nance to North Carolina, who's one of their better players, if not their best player at the time. Obviously, the guys have improved. They've played better defense, played smarter on both ends, but it still blows my mind how they went from worst in the Big Ten to losing one of their better players, a starter, and then going to second in the Big Ten. Great job by Chris Collins. He's been there for a while, but this team still doesn't make sense to me. Have never been sold on him the whole season. Penn State somehow ends up in the Final Four teams, the Big Ten tournament. Then moving on, Indiana's first game. I think they're playing the best basketball in the Big Ten right now. I got them pulling this one out over Maryland pretty comfortably. All right, Final Four teams. We got Michigan upsetting Purdue, Michigan State over Iowa, Indiana over Maryland, and then Penn State with the upset over Northwestern. I think between Penn State or Illinois, whoever wins that first one, it's going to end up beating Northwestern. But moving on, Michigan versus Michigan State, the interstate matchup. Both teams, in my opinion, are playing their better basketball this time of the year, but it's so hard to go against Michigan State with Tom Izzo in March. They have the experienced guards. AJ Hoggard's played minutes for 3 years. Tyson Walker, the senior, he's made every clutch three down the stretch, or pretty much every game I've watched for him. So hard for me to go against Michigan State. Need Matty Sissoko to step up and stop Hunter Dickinson. It's not necessarily the best matchup for him, but I think Tom Izzo gets it done in this game. I think Hunter Dickinson plays very well, but I don't think it's enough. Maybe a slow shooting night from Jet Howard against a tougher Michigan State that's more experienced. I like Michigan State in that one. And then moving down, Penn State versus Indiana. I think this is eventually where it runs out for Penn State. Don't have a true post on the roster. Yes, they hit threes very well, and if they're on, they could beat anyone. But they're the 10th team in the conference for a reason. Got to go with Indiana, who's hot. And that brings us to our final matchup, Michigan State versus Indiana. I don't have Northwestern in my championship game, and I would put a lot of money on them not making it. On the other hand, keeping Purdue out is tough, but it's also extremely tough to bet against Tom Izzo in March. No, that's been a big reason for this, but just that senior experience, Tyson Walker, you got the experience, AJ Hoggard, and then you got Joey Hauser, Matty Sissoko, Malik Hall. They're all guys who've been there a while, Jaden Akins, and they're all healthy, playing good basketball. And another part of this is Indiana and Michigan State are two of the 5 teams in the Big Ten who have 6 or more road or neutral site wins. The others being Northwestern, Purdue, and then I believe Maryland. But regardless, 2 teams in the championship game, 2 of the best in the Big Ten on the road or neutral. Love them going far in the Big Ten tournament. I think the difference maker here is just Michigan State in this guard matchup. I know Indiana's playing well. TJD almost unstoppable, but I think the guard mismatch here is too big. Xavier Johnson's out for the season now. I thought he was going to come back. I thought it was going to be huge. Probably was going to make his debut in the last week, maybe this tournament, and just really be the extra edge to push that team back over. He's officially out for the season. I know Trey Galloway's been better, but I think Tyson Walker lights him up in this matchup, and AJ Hoggard as well. Miller Kopp, another solid player, but a guy who could just go like 1 for 4 from three and just basically go missing on the court. TJD will be the best player in this game, but 1 through 5, Michigan has a lot of more guys who can do a lot more things. I think Indiana has too many guys who are just putting up minutes, but they do have an X factor in Jalen Hood-Schifino, but going with the freshman against the experience is not something I'm going to do in March. Got Michigan State as our champions for our Big Ten tournament. I know this video ran a little bit long, but let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. I'm feeling pretty good about this. We'll probably start tailing some of these picks. I'll put them out on Twitter at Profit of Picks. Obviously, said I wasn't going to be betting Wednesday, but no lines out yet for the later games. Expect a tweet or another video coming out. Thanks everybody for watching. And then, as always, we have our partnership with Prize Picks. You see there on the left, they'll match your first deposit up to $100 using the promo code PROPICKS. Once again, app is Prize Picks. It's a daily fantasy app, so you can use it in betting legal states. Give it a look if you haven't already. Thanks everyone for watching. Let me know what you're taking in the comments and expect some bets coming out very shortly.